Our next panel is from the Ramapo Catskill Library System, the Nyack Library, and Monroe Library.
My name is Robert Hupsher. I'm the Executive Director of the Ramapo Catskill Library System, and I have with me today Marilyn McIntosh, who's the Director of the Monroe Free Library, and Jim Mahoney, who's the Director of the Nyack Library, two libraries within our system. The bulk of state aid goes to library systems. In fact, direct state aid to public libraries represents only 2.72% of the total state aid to libraries. So the bulk of it does go to library systems. Library systems were created, as you well know, about 50 years ago. RCLS is 52 years old. And they were created primarily to provide, to help develop libraries within the state of New York and to provide equity of access. The notion being that regardless of where you live in the state, you should have equitable, notice we say equitable, not equal. In a small community in upstate New York, you can't be equal to Queens Public Library, but you can certainly have equitable access to information and resources. So libraries, from the very beginning, public library systems rather, were created from the very beginning, all library systems in fact, were created from the very beginning to be consolidated cooperative services to achieve the benefits of that consolidation and cooperation. And 52 years later, that's exactly what RCLS continues to do. We help our libraries save local dollars by providing consolidated services. Right now, our system is going through a major migration in our integrated library system, the ILS, that software we use, our libraries use to operate. This is a major endeavor. If every one of our libraries had to automate on their own, over half of our libraries would not be automated today, and likely would never be automated because of the cost. But because we're able to do that through a consolidated program, all of our libraries are automated. The last of those libraries came on board in 2000. And this was possible only because RCLS invested literally millions of dollars of system funds to create the system. Unfortunately, state aid did not keep up. And so about 5 years ago, I came on in 2000. It was quickly apparent to me that state aid was not keeping up with inflation, nor was it in keeping up with the changes in services that are available, that are required by our libraries. In fact, inflation alone has resulted in a reduction in our purchasing power by over 73% since 1990, when the current education law formulas were established. That's not even to address the cuts in the last 5 years, which have reduced that even more. And the deputy commissioner, it was Jim Farrell who mentioned the fact that in previous years, good years, when the state was flush with money, we didn't necessarily get full funding at education law levels. So there have been millions of dollars of state aid to libraries that never flowed to the libraries or library systems. But we continue to offer our services, and the one thing that I wanted to address, which again was hinted at, is return on investment. There are many ways to calculate return on investment. One of the numbers that we hear about is that for every dollar invested by the state of New York, there's about a $13 return in terms of investment in services that we provide. Earlier, somebody was talking about delivery. Last year, we delivered 3.3 million items to our member libraries. We do a 5-day-a-week delivery system. The cost per item was under 15 cents. That's less than it costs to send a letter. That's a consolidated service that would not be possible to mail a book, and that's the other option libraries would have. We'd be looking at $2.30 minimum each way. So we're talking about a huge value that's there. One example, and this was talked about by some others, was the way we provide consolidated services and how we help our libraries is RCLS has had a Help for You job consultation program over the last 3 years. We've helped 408 individuals within our region meet with job counselors to help them prepare their resumes and to get counseling on what they might do in the work world. We did this in partnership with our member libraries and with the local services such as Rockland County Guidance Center, Tomorrow's Workplace in Rockland County, Ulster County Office for Employment and Training, the Center for Workforce Development in Sullivan County, and Orange Works in Orange County. So we not only provide consolidated and cooperative services for our member libraries, but we also work with existing services within our region to try to bring the best to our libraries and to empower our libraries to meet the needs of their communities. Someone earlier talked about the fact that every library is unique, and every community is unique, and hence every library is unique, and that's very true. In fact, excellence is not defined by size or how much money you spend, but is rather locally defined based on your needs and mission. In hard times, there are clear statistics that people cannot afford to maintain their internet services at home, when children have to go to the library to study because both parents are working, when people require help in job searches, when we're helping the government entities provide things like tax forms to people. People are coming to the library and library use is dramatically up. Succinctly put, libraries will get us through times of no money better than money will get us through times of no libraries. You had asked a couple of questions. Why are these cuts coming when libraries are obviously doing some very important things in our communities? I believe it's because, and I'm going to be very blunt, because we're an easy target. You're right. I think Assemblyman Riley, you said that the outcry isn't there when the budget is cut, and I think in spite of the fact that we may do individual libraries may do a very good job of talking to their constituents, their users. I don't think we do a very good job of talking to our non-users. There is some data out there with the help of funds from the Gates Foundation that shows that there is high support for libraries in terms of value, that some 72% of the population see the value of libraries, including, surprisingly, those that don't use libraries. So we have the goodwill, we haven't capitalized on it. The idea of developing some kind of statewide marketing campaign that would get the message out to people, I think is a great idea. And I know that a number of my colleagues and I have been talking about how we could do that. We could certainly use help from the legislature in maybe providing some seed money for us to do that kind of thing. I think there would be value in that. I think the other thing that's really important is that people don't understand how libraries in the state work. We are probably partly responsible for this because we talked about free libraries, and people have thought they were free. We meant that we were providing free access to information. Libraries are not free, they cost money. And we need to find a way to fund those libraries, and for every dollar that the state cuts from library aid, it directly affects library systems like RCLS. And in 2012, for example, my board has decided to implement a service fee on our member libraries. So essentially the costs are being downloaded. With that, I'll pass it on to Marilyn.
Yep, my name is Marilyn McIntosh. I'm the executive director of the Monroe Free Library. It's a medium-sized library in Orange County. And for too many years now, I think we've been hearing that term in this economy. It makes me crazy because it just kind of makes an excuse for all sorts of things. And what this really means is that we have to do with less, tighten our belts, and make our resources work harder for us. One very obvious way to do this is to share services, to work collectively, and to work cooperatively. Some people talk and act as though this were a new idea, but not so for libraries. I think we're the poster child for this way of doing business. In the community, we offer the cost benefit of purchasing one to serve many. And we don't stop there. We take it to the limit by belonging to our system, which provides so many benefits that it would be hard for me to list them all. Our particular system, the Ramapo Catskill Library System, offers us many options that would be just impossible to provide on our own. The way we operate on a day-to-day basis, circulating material, helping people by providing a wide range of information, and preparing material for circulation are functions that are centralized at our system. In addition, we have interlibrary loan, and you've heard a lot of people talk about that delivery system that's just incredible. People from all over our counties get material that maybe we can't afford to have brought to them on a daily basis. That's pretty incredible. I don't know of anything else that does that. And our system does that. The cost savings to the public who use this service in record numbers is incredible. I've been serving as a public librarian for 17 years and have seen firsthand what a jewel our system is. People depend on us, especially in these tough economic times, to provide the resources they can no longer afford on their own. I guess you could say that we're ahead of our time. We're good at what we do and need your help to maintain our ability and even to grow. We're masters at making a little go a long way, but I think we've come to the end of our road and now we need some TLC. I respectfully ask you to consider the value systems and libraries add to the quality of life in New York State, and to help our citizens make New York the best place to live in the United States of America. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, and I would just like to add, as a taxpayer, I think libraries are incredible. We do incredible things, and our systems just make us amazing. So I hope we can count on you to be passionate advocates for us in your capacity as Assembly people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm James Mahoney. I'm the director of the Nyack Public Library in Rockland County. I got my first job as a teenager in my high school library. That was nearly 45 years ago. The two things I wanted to talk about this afternoon, are just two brief things. One is what I call the library as business, and the other, I just want to make a few remarks on the tax cap issue. The library as business is my concept of what has happened to libraries in the past 45 years. By and large, we are no longer a cottage industry, as was the case when I first took on the directorship of a public library. We have a vast number of more complicated things to attend to as administrators of libraries. We need the system desperately to help us in those administrative issues, in legal issues, in consultation on a whole range of issues that affect both the public and our staffs. The more that these issues rise and become more complex, the more we need the assistance of the library systems. Going on with this idea of business as the library as business is the lack of public perception of what we are doing and why this has transformed us now into being businessmen and businesswomen, besides being the traditional purveyors of information, whether that be through the reference desk or through books. We need specialized staffs now to handle the complex natures that the library as business bring to us. Those staffs need additional funding. I thought that Nyack Library was doing the right thing a few years ago when we launched our expansion of the library. This past May, we completed the doubling of the size of the library, bringing it from a cottage industry library to now a decent size program library in the county for the community. We thought we were having a computer resource center that was going to be funded through a state grant, and it fell through. We pretty much borrowed material from our county and now have computers with sort of a makeshift arrangement. But what has now happened with the tax cap seems to me to be tying our hands once again. And I say that from a very real point. Although it is possible to increase the increase above 2%, we are now then forced to double and triple our efforts to the community, which very much wants to support us, as you said. But now we have to fight against new opponents who want us to stay within the realm of the tax cap, and even our trustees who say, oh, we've got to stay within this. We've had to let go a full-time librarian, cut our materials budget, and our programs budget in order to face the reality of what the tax cap will mean for my own library. I don't know why now the state has done that to us when we're trying to do the very thing that you're asking us to do and to get funding, but you've made it so much harder for us. So if anything you can do to address that situation, I think that would be the answer to many of the most pressing problems that medium and small public libraries or libraries of any size in New York State, public libraries are facing right now. Thank you.
I do have a couple of quick questions. A lot of the discussion we're hearing today is, what libraries' core services were, and then with the economy the way it is, the non-traditional services. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and I know you mentioned this earlier, is the non-users, of people that aren't using the library services. And do you see any way, and I know the funding issue is critical to this, but another way we can help extend that information out to our non-users to try to have them more engaged, to see how libraries can help address some of the needs in their communities or in their rural areas or wherever they may be located?
Okay, I was having a little bit of difficulty hearing you because of the echo in here, but I think you were asking me what can we do about getting non-users into the library generally. One of the things that I do as the director of the library system is our system belongs to the three major chambers of commerce that cover our area: Rockland, Orange, and Sullivan. We have a piece of Southern Ulster as well that we have some libraries in. And I go to the chamber meetings. I usually go to the networking meetings primarily and talk to business people about the resources that we have. And I focus on the 21st century resources, electronic resources, databases, things that I know can help the business people. And I've been doing this now since I arrived. It took me about 5 years to get through. I'm finally getting business people. And the interesting thing is they mostly had library cards, but they hadn't been to the library in a long time, and they hadn't used the online services, which are available 24/7 via their internet connection. They just didn't know. And now, after about 5 years of doing this regularly, I had business people coming back to me and saying, those databases you told me about, those digital downloads you told me about, they're great. I've been using them. They're terrific. I was in San Francisco and I needed a book to read on my flight home. I downloaded a book. I've canceled some subscriptions at my business because I can get that stuff online through the library. I think it's a matter of people knowing what we have, that we actually have services, that our member libraries have services that are of value to them. Traditionally, we've had great access to children. People bring their children in. As kids got to their teens, they tended to drift away, and then we often wouldn't see them again until they were in the mid-20s, and they had children of their own, they brought them back. And then when their kids grew up to be teens, they left and they came back later when their lives settled a bit and they could come back. We've now focused on teen services, so we're beginning to keep teens in the library. I think what we have to do is make a bigger effort at letting people know that whatever your interest is, we have something for you.
Can I also address that? One of the things we do is we have a very innovative newsletter, but it looks like a magazine, and we make it our business to go to maybe the auto repair shop and the dentist's office, and we leave those there. And we've gotten a lot of input from non-users who use the dentist or need their car repaired. And that's another way of doing it. And also what politicians do, which we haven't done and I'm considering, is they go door to door and they talk to the people one-on-one and they just start talking to people. That's what it takes.
Just to finish the thought, I think it's ignorance about what we have. And most people, when they're interviewed on the street, you stop somebody and you say the word library, they'll say books. We are way more than books, and we have been for a long time. We've got to get that message out. We've got to work really hard to get that message out.
I think that kind of goes to my question, and what we've been talking about here is the more you can connect with the other people in the community and the benefit that you bring, more than just books, I think that's going to help in the message of trying to, for the public awareness for the average person on the street who might not be familiar with how libraries can be beneficial to them or their business. I mean, you mentioned joining the Chamber of Commerce. That connectivity is, I think, will help in that message of showing the importance of libraries in all our areas across the state. So I think that's a good suggestion.
But if I can just carry that a little further, libraries are engines of economic development in their communities. what a lot of people don't realize is that libraries, to put it in business terms, are end destinations. People go to the library because that's where they're intending to go, and there's a ripple effect. You know, baseball teams are great at telling you, you know, the ripple effect of building a stadium. We've been really terrible at explaining to people how there's a ripple effect of people coming to the library. So if you can put your library in the core of your community, in the downtown of your community, you're going to bring people in there that are going to then spend money at their local businesses. That's true at Monroe, that's true at Nyack. You know, the new Nyack Library has brought a whole lot of new people into that core, and they're coming to visit the library. That's their primary purpose. It's not their secondary function, it's their primary function. We forget that. And, you know, you talked about the economic regional councils. Although we weren't thought about, my understanding is I attended one of them that I was able to get to. Several of my colleagues in our region also attended them. I think we've gotten on their agenda now. I think they're aware of us. We're not on their committees, but I think that at least some of those regional councils are going to include libraries in their strategic vision for the future, because they recognize that we may have resources that we could bring to bear on moving the economies of our communities.
You know, I think you made a very important point, and that's that perhaps we have been completely off base here in identifying our problem, in that we, as a legislature, in fact, do not fund libraries, which we usually talk about, but we really fund library systems, because that's where the vast bulk of the funds that we provide go. And I know when I first got involved, I found this out, and I said the money, 80 million or whatever it might be at a given time, goes to the systems, not directly to the libraries. This doesn't seem right to me. So I went to a couple libraries, and they said, oh no, this is wonderful. We fully support this, as the two librarians here are supporting the Ramapo system. And I think that that might be an important point, that as we look at our rationale for funding, that we keep that very much in mind and perhaps in focus. Because when you look at that, the success of libraries as far as having collaboration and using technology is best seen with the services of the systems. And I also think, like me, I think even, I would say the large majority of legislators are unaware of the systems. And I would imagine that 95% of the general public are unaware of the systems. And perhaps we have to do some work in making everyone aware of the systems. What do you think of that? I mean, I think that's what you've been addressing in a way. Although you've spoken to the efficacy of the systems, but I think that what I'm saying, we have to make people more aware of that. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely would, because I think library systems in the state of New York are the poster child for collaboration and consolidation, which this legislature and the governor keep talking about. You want to look at a model that's existed for 50 plus years, here it is, and it works. It's brought our libraries. If you take a look at the growth of our libraries, while our budget, library systems budgets have remained flat, in my region, our libraries, individual libraries budgets have increased by 300%. And it's been through the services that we've provided that enhanced them so that they were able to go to their local communities to get the funding. We have no mechanism, library systems have no mechanism to get funding. We can't go to the public, and I'm not arguing that we should. I think that would be very confusing for people, particularly in systems like mine, where we have multi-county systems. Because when I first arrived, I naively went to all of my county legislators and tried to convince them to give money to the system. And universally what they said is, I can't give you any money unless you can guarantee me the money stays in the county. So then we changed our focus, and we got all of our county legislators to provide money to the libraries. And I'm happy to say that all 4 of our counties provide money to their local libraries through a library organization that then distributes those funds. But you're absolutely right. If people don't understand how the systems work, don't understand the value of the money that's being invested, and it's easy if you talk about state aid to libraries to look at and say, well, most of that money comes from the municipality. Why is the state involved? Well, what the state is doing is leveraging that return on investment that comes from consolidation and cooperation.
And we as government officials have to just become more aware of the fact, widespread awareness of the fact that this is the poster child of what people talk about today, as far as collaboration and technological efficiencies. Thank you very much for your testimony.